God says it's time to start thanking yourself for bringing heaven to earth. My name is Daniel, and in this video I'm going to be sharing some messages I received during a conversation with God, Prime Creator, Source Consciousness. During this conversation, I was on a pilgrimage to the very high-frequency lands of Sacred Valley, Peru, and it was in the midst of a sacred plant medicine ceremony. These messages were so profound. While personal, I felt that they were appropriate and applicable to all of the volunteer souls, starseeds, and lightworkers. So hence why I'm sharing the messages I received with you here. Some context for the messages that I received here are during my spiritual awakening and my growth process, expansion of consciousness, I started to realize the result of living in this density of this earth realm. And I began to realize my own disconnection from source, from my creator. I know it's just an illusion of this reality, but I still felt this gaping hole within myself, that I felt myself wanting a closer connection with my creator. I hadn't had experiences where some might say they talk to God all day long, they have conversations with him or her. I'm not channeling source consciousness through trance channeling. I've also heard of plenty of experiences. People have had either near-death experiences or psychedelic experiences or just very profound spiritual experiences where they had these very blissful, euphoric confrontations, almost merging with God, that it was just so blissful and euphoric. And I found myself craving an experience like that for not having an experience of that for my own. Which then brings me to my plant medicine ceremony in Peru. I found myself kind of noodling on this thought. And then all of a sudden, God just appeared in my mind. And almost as to say, peekaboo, I've been here the whole time. And he showed me that he had been in my mind the entire time, speaking through me, through my own thoughts, just as I talk, like using words like and dude and bro, like I'm right here. I've been here the whole time. Your thoughts are my thoughts. Your monologue is my monologue. So naturally that was a really profound experience. And then taking that even a step further, he told me that he had been watching me the entire time, my entire life. I had never been separate from him or alone or without not being under his gaze. And he showed me through the eyes of the other people that I was with in my ceremony. Every once in a while, one might look over my way, we'd make eye contact, and God would speak to me through my inner monologue and said, hey, that's me. I'm checking on you. Just like I always have. I'm always checking on you. And then another man would make eye contact with me and said, hey, that's me too. I'm checking on you. And then in another instance, a man walked over to me from my group, placed his arm around me, and God spoke to me in my mind and said, hey, that's me. I'm holding you right now. So naturally, that was a very profound and meaningful experience. The next thing that happened right after that is I walked away from my group. We were on a very beautiful peak in Peru, and it was just a beautiful vista that I was appreciating. Mountains, beautiful clouds, nothing that a picture could do justice. And God spoke to me in my mind and said, look at what we created. Knowing my own internal thoughts and what I'm aware of, that really struck a chord with me, because I know on some plane or some way of looking at things, some perspective, that I, you, we all created this, since we are all fractals of source. So that was a really meaningful thing that he shared with me as well there. And as a byproduct of that, what I naturally tend to do is I begin to think of how am I going to share this experience? This was such a crazy, wild, amazing experience. How am I going to share this? I start looping thoughts in my mind of conversations that I might have in the future with people that I'm close with or people who are in my group. How am I going to explain this to them? I also have a tendency to want to share my experiences in written form on Instagram posts. So I was already in that moment starting to think, like, how am I going to word this? Like, this is such a cool experience. How am I going to get this out there? And God was hearing my thoughts, and he kind of butted in and started to call me out. And he said, hey, you're literally kind of in another dimension here. You're in a completely altered state of consciousness, and yet you're still thinking about other people, which is great. You're thinking about how you can share this experience for their benefit. And I love that. But it's time you start thinking about yourself and honoring what you've been doing here in this lifetime. It's time you thank yourself for bringing heaven to earth. And that was a really meaningful thing. And I thought, yeah, like, I guess I really should do that. But again, just kind of thinking about it up in my mind. And then God almost took it another level further. And he's like, no, like, I'm serious. And then what happened next is he literally took control of my body. He forced me to stand up nice and tall, hug myself. And he said, no, right now, you are going to stop everything. You're not going to think about anyone else except yourself. Thank yourself for bringing heaven to earth. And I closed my eyes. I went through that motion. It was very meaningful. And then while my eyes were closed, I saw a vision of a runway of flowers that were leading from me to like a crystalline type castle or palace structure, which in my mind's eye, that was a representation of heaven. So it was a very meaningful experience. And I wanted to share that with you because while it was very personal for me, I feel like this is very appropriate for us. You know, we're all thinking that we need to be doing more. We're not doing enough throughout this ascension process. And I'm here to tell you otherwise. And I want to share a metaphor that might drive this point home even further, because there was something that was kind of underlaying that message from God that, again, him knowing what I'm aware of, the types of thoughts and realities that I'm aware of, I'm going to share this with you that it might drive this point home even further, because some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, that sounds nice, but like, I don't really see heaven on earth right now. Like, where is it? There's still fluoride in the water. There's still censorship on the internet. The dark ones are still up to their dirty tricks. All of us can find an infinite number of explanations for why our perceived heaven on earth reality has yet to materialize. There hasn't been any grand solar flash. There's still unawakened people in my family. I'm still being called a conspiracy theorist. Like, I don't really know what you're talking about. Yeah, that sounds nice, but I'm not really buying it. I would like to share something with you that might drive this point home a little bit further. This is a very human example. In the year 1992, the Summer Olympics were held in Barcelona, Spain, and this was the first year that professional athletes were allowed to participate in the Olympic Games. Prior to those Olympics, they were reserved for only amateur athletes. And Team USA, for their Olympic basketball team, now that they were able to have professional athletes participate, coalesced what is now referred to as the Dream Team. Team USA basketball in 1992 had on its team Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and I believe 11 of the 12 members of that roster are all now in the NBA Hall of Fame. They had the largest average margin of victory in the Olympic Games in basketball out of any team ever. They won one of their games by almost 70 points. They won their final gold medal game by over 30 points. It was basically child's play for them. So the question we might ask is, when did the Dream Team win the gold medal? The answer is, it was over before it began. Team USA basketball, the Dream Team, won the gold medal the exact moment it was decided and announced that professional basketball players could participate in the Olympic Games. It was over before it began. So now tying it back into our situation here on earth, especially as it pertains to this spiritual war that we've been engaged in, in terms of the light and the dark forces. That's another thing that some of us might be thinking, like, there's no heaven on earth if we're still at war right now in this spiritual perspective. There's still dark forces out there who are trying to prevent this from happening. Like, I'm not sure I'm really buying this heaven on earth example you're sharing. So then I take it back to this. In this scenario, the light forces had the Arcturians, the Andromedans, the Lyrans, the Syrians, the Orions, the Pleiadians. We have angelics here, and on and on and on. We have the absolute best of the best souls here in human form right now. God's first line of defense, God's chosen ones, the most highly conscious, loving, spiritual badasses in the entire cosmos are all here on Earth in human bodies and, of course, supporting us in the external as well. And who are our opponents, so-called, in this spiritual war? So then I would ask you, when was this spiritual war won? It was over before it began. And I'll take it a step further. When was heaven brought to earth? Heaven was brought to earth the exact moment that you, dear starseed, made the decision to come to earth. Heaven was brought to earth when you came here. You brought heaven here the moment that you decided to come here and be of service. So as I said, it's time to start thanking yourself for bringing heaven to earth, because heaven is within you right now, in whichever way that resonates for you. Your own frequency of heaven is in you right now. On the higher planes, this war, this ascension, it's already over. We've already won. It just needs to play out here in linear time. I'm inviting you right now to take a few moments, drop into your heart, and truly acknowledge yourself for all that you've done on this mission of yours. So you're welcome to close your eyes, place your hands on your heart, give yourself a hug or a gentle caressing, or just place your hands, make some contact with your body in whatever way resonates. Hug yourself, hold yourself in the way that God would, because God's holding you right now. And right now, once and for all, thank yourself for bringing heaven to earth. Thank yourself for all that you've done up until this point. You gave up so much to be here. The call went out to many, many, many souls, and not all of them answered. But you did. Many of you gave up divine partnerships to be here. You left your soul families. You gave up a frequency of unimaginable love and light. But most of all, you gave up your home to be here and to be of service. God, Source, Prime Creator, thanks you for bringing heaven to earth. And so do I. You're welcome to stay in this frequency as long as you want, but I will leave it at that, and I'll see you next time.